Hello there, this is Yana Smakula and welcome to another Hero Arts video tutorial. You're watching the color layering series, and in this episode we're taking a closer look at the Tiger Lily set. I have several cards to share and of course a few different color combos to explore. If you're new to the color layering video series, these videos are all about exploring different ink pad and embossing powder color options for the Hero Arts color layering sets, and there's plenty of sets to choose from. I'm going to start by sharing a couple color layering options for this gorgeous flower, and will later show you how I use these images to create a few handmade cards. This flower has 3 layers to it. It's large in size and thus easy to align. I started by stamping this lily in pinks first. I'm using soft pink for the solid base layer, and you'll notice that I'm stamping a flower in each color combination 3 times just so that I have more than one bloom to use on my card. I'm also using my Misty today to speed things up a little bit. Next, I'm using pink matter for the medium detail layer, and I'm stamping this twice or even 3 times onto each of my flowers to get a nice contrast between the layers. Finally, I'm using mulled wine for the last detail layer. I find it very important to use a very dark contrasting color for the last step. You can even use black to add in those shadows to this image. For the orange color combo, I used soft apricot for the base layer, tangerine for the medium layer, and finally Cup of Joe for the detail layer. In the end, I actually did not like the brown with the orange colors, and I replaced it with some heat embossing using copper embossing powder. Next, I decided to stamp this flower in yellow. I used soft vanilla for the base layer, butter bar for the medium detail layer, and gold embossing powder for the top detail layer. You can of course use your ink pad, maybe again try using brown or orange if you don't want to do heat embossing, but you can always heat emboss the top detail layer for some beautiful metallic shine. The trick here is just to make sure that your stamped image is dry so that the embossing powder is not going to stick everywhere where it's not supposed to stick to. Here I treated my paper with an anti-static powder tool. Next, I inked up the image with clear embossing ink, and I applied gold embossing powder. This gold looks absolutely gorgeous together with the butter bar and the soft vanilla inks. I also tried 2 more color combinations for this color layering lily. First one is using red ink pads. I used pale tomato, crimson, and raspberry jam. Although I didn't like how the raspberry jam, once dry, turned out, it turned a little bit purple. So I heat embossed the top layer instead, and again I'll show that in just a minute. And I also tried purple color combo using soft purple orchid and grape juice. Now the lids on the ink pads here look a little bit deceiving, so the soft purple is actually lighter than the orchid color, and that's the order in which you need to stamp those if you'd like to recreate this look. There's a coordinating die available for the Tiger Lily image, and I used mine to cut all of these flowers out. And again, it's pretty easy to align. To add some unexpected detail to the red lilies, I decided to use white embossing powder and heat emboss the final detail layer in white. This really changed the whole look of this flower and made it pop. I used Hero Arts detail white embossing powder, although regular white will work just as well. Once my die cutting was done and I had all my lilies cut out, I started working on simple backgrounds for my cards. I love to use stencils for quick and striking backgrounds, so today I challenged myself to use some of my favorite Hero Arts stencils to create background panels for these projects. I used the Abstract Waves stencil and Glimmer Paste in gold. This is Glimmer Paste from Tonic Studios. I used a palette knife and applied this paste just to the center section of my white background panel. Once I was happy with the amount of paste, I removed the stencil and I washed it in warm water and soap. You want to make sure to do so immediately after use, as the paste tends to dry very quickly and it dries hard. So if you do not wash it right away, it can damage your stencil. I also used embellishment mousse in color Mother of Pearl. This is also another product from Tonic Studios. And I used another stencil from Hero Arts. This is Deco Pattern. And I applied it onto craft paper for another background. Now this mousse starts off very hard, so you have to carefully work it with your palette knife to be able to spread it onto the paper through the stencil. Once again, be sure to wash the stencil and your palette knife as soon as you're done using them. I set all of my backgrounds aside to dry, and you can use your heat tool to speed up the drying time if you are impatient, but if there's time, it's better to let your backgrounds air dry. I came back to my cards in about an hour. I really loved that white heat embossing, and that prompted me to use a white pen and add some white detail to my pink lilies. It was very easy to do, and the result was just fantastic. I added details to both of the pink flowers for this card. I used foam adhesive squares and foam mounted my lilies onto the background coming in from the corners. I also trimmed this panel to 4 by 5 1/4 inches, and I adhered it onto an A2 black card base, creating a small black border around my floral cluster. I feel that this helped frame everything and make this card complete. I also used leftover lily images and I adhered them around the panel, creating the illusion that I had more flowers. I just didn't want to throw these leftovers away, and using them this way seemed like a great idea. I finished this card by adding some champagne sequins and a congratulations sentiment. This sentiment comes with the Tiger Lily stamp set, and there are a few other sentiments in this set that are great for everyday messages. For the purple lilies, I decided to go with a very simple background. I used Hero Arts white wood grain cardstock. I love this paper for super clean and simple cards. There's just nothing better for me. I used double layer foam adhesive, and I added just a single foam square in the center of each flower. Now I did my stamping on thinner paper here, and the paper warped a little bit. You can see that it's not flat. And I decided to use this to my advantage, so I shaped each flower even more, creating somewhat of a dome out of each. I adhered all 3 flowers using my foam adhesive, forming a cluster. And then I added a simple thinking of you sentiment and finished this card with a few sequins from Hero Arts. I also later added a bit of gray and white twine just for something extra. For my last card for today, I used a 3D decoupage technique. I used my scissors and cut parts of the red flower to create a second and then a third dimensional layer. So here you can see me cutting a part of the flower off. Next, I'm using foam adhesive squares to foam mount this partial layer onto the bottom solid layer. And here you can see all of the dimension that I'm getting by using this technique. I had another full flower, so I once again cut just a fraction of it, this time a smaller fraction than before. And again, I foam mounted that in place, creating one flower that consists of 3 separate layers. Hero Arts has actually a few floral stamps and coordinating dies that do this sort of 3D decoupage look for you, so you don't have to use your scissors to cut the layers out. And they are awesome, and they easily let you add physical dimension to your flower images. I foam mounted one of my backgrounds onto an A2 white card base. I foam mounted my dimensional flower, and I finished this card off by using the little flower leftovers. I used glue and adhered them inside the circle. And again, I didn't want these to go to waste, so I just reused them on my card. I stamped thank you sentiment and embellished this card using red sequins from Hero Arts. Here's a quick look at all of the Tiger Lily cards that I have for you today. I hope this video has given you some fun ideas to try with your color layering Tiger Lily stamp set from Hero Arts. I hope you enjoyed watching this episode from the Color Layering with Yana video series. Be sure to stop by next month for the next episode. As always, if you have questions, please leave them in a comment section on YouTube or on Hero Arts blog. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!